Welcome to the Succeed Against the Odds podcast. My name is Francesca Anastasi, also known as Sabea. I'm a multi-passionate entrepreneur. I'm your host and mentor. And each week we bring you an inspiring person, an expert, or message, and some behind the scenes to help you ignite and unleash your potential. Thanks so much for listening. Welcome back to another episode. Today my guest is Joscelyn Duffy. Joscelyn Duffy is an international ghostwriter, author, and speaker whose 14 books and 29 short stories have included collaborations with internationally acclaimed speakers, teachers, visionaries, and celebrities. Through her message of making our story transformational, she guides others to rise above challenge, to harness deep-rooted wisdom, and contribute to the betterment of humanity. Welcome, Joscelyn.
Thanks, Francesca.
Yeah, I'm so glad to have you here because I think you are my first guest who is a ghostwriter.
Oh.
Yeah. So
I promise you I'm not eerie at all.
No, I'm sure
There's
you're
no
not.
ghost in me.
No. And you know what? English is my second language, and I only heard about ghostwriting maybe about 5-6 years ago for the very first time. I did not even know that existed. So for other people who may be like me, can you explain what a ghostwriter is and does?
Sure. I can explain to you. I'd like to take two aspects of this. First, the typical definition of a ghostwriter, and then what I do in my business, because it goes beyond the standard definition of a ghostwriter or a copywriter. So in a typical world, most people know editors. So editor would look at your copy technically, and a lot of them would provide suggestions, and you were going to make the changes to your book, to your website copy, to a blog, whatever the case may be. With a ghostwriter, what I'm doing is we're co-creating your book, your web copy, your blog, your course, your speech. So we're looking at what is your ultimate message, a very powerful synopsis. We're creating a structure. So I have a program called The Breakthrough where I work with adept writers because the hardest part for many is getting started. I have 20,000 words worth of notes and I have no idea how to put them together. How do I do this creatively? How do I do it strategically? How do I do it in a really unique way that resonates with my audience? That creates visibility for me, that makes me step out and be original. And so that's our initial standpoint. The rest of it really, it's a very personally based business for me. I don't have a standard model because for some people, they want to be interviewed and have me write every word. And what that involves is really tuning into the person. So that has been a theme ingrained through my entire business. It's deep understanding, it's compassion, it's empathy. And as we'll likely talk about, my life experience has lent me to be able to really be in your shoes when I'm writing for you and understand the emotions that you're dealing with. And also tune into what you want to say, but you don't actually consciously know you want to say yet. So that takes us kind of to the next level. What do I do as a ghostwriter is I'm a potential finder. I can see that in you. I can see your truths and your essence and your potential, and I'm helping to bring that out and to put it into words. So start to finish, we are crafting your entire story, methodology, message, concepts, whatever the case is for you.
I love that. I was always under the impression that a ghostwriter just does it all for you without you even being involved. But from what I'm understanding is it's really you're like the hand that is putting down into writing someone else's story with 100% of their collaboration.
Absolutely. And I'm a mirror, more importantly than anything else. Because sometimes we don't hear what we're saying until someone reflects it back to us. So when I'm interviewing someone, I'm paying such strict attention to what they're saying and what they're not saying. And sometimes it's extracting those pieces of what they're not saying. That's where the intuitive component comes in for me, being an intuitive ghostwriter, is putting those pieces into their writing and then sending it back to someone and, having them burst out in tears going, how did you know? How did you know this is exactly what I wanted to say? So it's such a blessing. I mean, I have people hand me a lifetime, sometimes 4 or 5 decades worth of journals. The trust level is incredible. So I feel so blessed to work with the people that I work with.
That must be amazing.
It is. It's very fulfilling work because at the end of the day, I'm helping someone find their voice and share their voice.
How did you get into this?
Well, my vocation found me. If you look at Jim Carrey has a video called "I Need Color" that he posted recently, and he says that exact thing, that his vocation found him. So if it's okay with you, I can jump right into the story of how I got to be a ghostwriter. So my background actually is in sales and marketing in the financial world. I have a business degree, and I was swept away after graduating on top of my class to St. Louis, Missouri, and then Toronto. I was bred as a product specialist. I was training financial advisors coast to coast. So here's 21-year-old me standing in a room of 50 to 100, mostly men, more than twice my age, going, all right, guys, I'm going to teach you how to build stock portfolios right now. So I look back and I laugh now, but it was all about increasing the credibility and the value of what I could offer by just speaking what I knew. So I was training, I was writing national financial newsletters, crafting marketing concepts. I was crafting scripts for broadcasts for CEOs and federal level politicians, just given a lot of opportunity early on. I'm really grateful for that. And as I continued in the financial world, I was able to be somewhat creative. I was creating branded platforms and concepts that were adapted by Fortune 500 companies. And there was still a calling within me. I just felt like I was still operating inside this box. And it's kind of like where life is whispering in your ear and then gives you a little poke of the shoulder and then gives you a little nudge. And you go, for me, I'm stubborn as all get out. So anyone who's listening who's like that, you can understand. I'm happy. It's all right. It's all good. Things are great. I have, a great network. I'm volunteering. I'm playing sports. I've got a great career, relationships. All is well. This little voice, it just keeps getting a little bit louder, a little bit louder, and a little bit louder till at 26, I was literally swept away and debilitated by a life-threatening case of lupus. So I was bedridden for 2 years. I had 2 to 3 waking hours a day. I had a blood clot, which I survived, and just the going through the therapy, which I'm very much into the natural, but when it comes to life or death, I do accept it. And I was just knocked out 2 to 3 waking hours a day. And doctors said, well, that's just how it's going to be. And I thought, no, it's not how it's going to be. I'm going to find a way through this naturally, the power of the mind, the power of alternative medicine, and gradually did so. And in the process of healing and that the gift of introspection that comes with dealing with an illness or other types of adversity, such as loss, that really makes us take a step back from the world that we know. Really making the most of that, I started to really dive into, self-awareness and what can I extract from this experience and how can I use this? Because I had already accepted to be a student of life. And for me, that's a huge thing for all of us, is to really embrace, this life as a platform for learning and then for teaching. And so I began to write my story. And anyone who's interested to know more about that healing journey and the principles that I use to heal, my book is Unshakable to the Core, and it is available on Amazon. And so I wrote that book and didn't publish it for a while. I just thought, no, it's just my healing journey. And I thought, you know what, I want to write about others. So I started to write a 25-chapter fiction based on people I met who were living their lives with real passion and purpose. And the reason it was a fiction, because some people, as I know you can relate to, one woman, for instance, was agoraphobic, and she didn't want her name attached to her story because it was so deeply personal and the people that were involved. And so making it a fiction allowed people to tell me the entirety of their story and their hardships, and then how they went on to thrive, to succeed against all odds. And in writing this book, without conscious intent of doing so, 4 people asked me to then write their autobiographies or memoirs. So I ended up with 4 book deals. 14 books in, I had never asked for a book deal. This is all by referrals and, call it synchronistic, fated meetings at the right place at the right time. And these are New York Times bestselling authors and some of the world's top motivational speakers, and just touching base, online or in person. And within an hour or two of them saying, you know what, I think you can help me. I think we can work together. So it's been such a blessing to be able to work with such incredible people in 4 different countries.
What a great idea to have a bio turn into a fiction so that you feel safe and your privacy is still protected, but your story is out there. Because I think there is some sort of healing process if there's been challenges in that in that life and that story, where when you put that story out there, you feel like you can help somebody else with it. So even though you want to protect your own identity, it must feel very powerful to be able to do that.
It is. And the beauty of the fiction too, because I'm someone who always sees the best in others. And I know it's a wonderful trait, but has also gotten me burnt sometimes too, right? Because some people do surprise us. But with a fiction, I was able to bring out and highlight those amazing aspects that I saw in others, those traits, those gifts, without it seeming too hokey or surreal, because it was slightly fiction.
Okay, so that was going to be my next question. So when you say it's fiction, is it the story just labeled as fiction, or is there fiction added to the story and kind of tweaked to make it?
The stories are real. Yeah, the stories are real. The names are changed. I think that's used in some TV show somewhere, but that's essentially the gist of it. I didn't over embellish the stories. I just shared my perspective. Which is a rosier colored glass that I'm seeing through, because that's the way I see the world and that's the way I see people. And to really show people, for me to say, like, this is what I see in you. This is how I see your potential. This is how I see your incredible transformation through your life. And just, it was such a blessing to see people react to that in such a positive way. I mean, these chapters were life changing. That was never my intent. It was just like, how can I give back to the people who've meant so much to me, the people who have influenced me? That was really my mindset upon healing, is how can I contribute more and give back more?
Now, you talk about how the entrepreneurial spirit can save your life. What do you mean by that?
I'm glad you asked. Yes. I'm trying to, it's interesting when you've been through something very adverse or very challenging, and those who are listening have been through something. No, it's hard to put it into words. And as a ghostwriter, I've seen that challenge as well. How do you put into words and share with others what you've done or what you've been through? And when it all boiled down, I looked at what it takes to live with an entrepreneurial spirit. Now, I say entrepreneurial spirit because regardless of whether you are an entrepreneur or not, I believe the entrepreneurial spirit is incredibly valuable and that it can indeed save our lives. And there's 4 reasons why. So the first is optimism. As an entrepreneur, we have to believe that we can shift the status quo, right? We have to believe that we can make a difference and have an impact. Otherwise, why are we doing what we're doing? And that takes a mix of idealism and realism. And in order to heal and to transcend and to transform from our great challenges and our adversities, we need to have that sense of optimism, of idealism. We need that to be our guiding force to pushing us through. When things don't make sense, we need to believe that we can create meaning from them, from those experiences.
Do you have any tips on how to, some people got that already naturally, that entrepreneurial spirit, to look at the positive side, to feel like they're going to get through whatever it is that they're going through. And then there are some who struggle with that and they can't find a way to be positive through the challenges.
The essence of my work boils down to our potential and our unique value. So I think optimism stems a lot from that. I mean, I've been at a point where I was unable to walk, had no hair, could barely look in the mirror. So you want to talk about it being hard to move forward and be optimistic? It's pretty hard, and being swept away from everything that I knew and the communities that I knew and loved. If we begin to contribute what we've been through, and even the slightest thing that we've learned, when we contribute that, we begin to clarify our value, because you begin to see that it has an impact. And whether you're sharing it with family, company, community, or humanity, we have this beautiful platform called the internet. We all have the power to do so. And just sharing that to say, hey, here's what I've been through. And I kind of found this might help you. I don't know. It's helped me. So let me tell you about what I did. And we start to realize that there are other people out there who are benefiting from hearing this. And the more we contribute, the more clarity we get. The more clarity we have, the more we have to contribute. So we're essentially building our optimism and our hope, not only for ourselves, but for something bigger. So you've got to make this bigger than yourself.
Right. So find a purpose in helping others through your own adversity.
Yeah. Like, self-expression as service is my work, and we all have the opportunity to do that. We have the freedom, in our developed nations to express, and we have the platforms through the internet, through using our voice in whatever form we want to, spoken, written, art, however we choose to do so.
Now, you also talk about thriving through adversity. And so this is still along that line of conversation.
It is. It's thriving through it and then, thriving beyond it. And we'll get to that in point number 4. But yeah, so it's thriving through it. So it's finding those moments, we have those things that make us happy, even when there are other things that are creating such heartache, such pain that don't make sense. Continue to focus on those little things that make you happy. Whether it's children, animals, relationships, the things that truly matter. Because if you've been through this, whatever the case may be, loss of a loved one, illness, job loss, financial hardship, what really matters now. So focus on those little things. Like, that's where we find our optimism. Our optimism is not in some gigantic, faraway, shiny pot, right? It's in those simple little things that we still have. And even when we feel like we've lost control, we still have those elements and can choose to embrace them.
Now, you mentioned earlier you were diagnosed with lupus, and then you decided to, you were going to do it your own way to take care of yourself. What was, besides that, like you took that on and you said, I'm going to do it my way and I'm going to get better, and it's not going to be the way you tell me it's going to be. What was the initial reaction when you first found out what was happening? Well, when they diagnosed you, what was that first reaction to it? Because I'm sure it was, not the greatest news that anyone wants to hear. Yeah. Was it an immediate, oh, I got this? Or was it, oh, and then you have to think about it and then pull it from within yourself to get that strength to say, no, I'm going to beat this?
Yeah. I had a human reaction. I was in shock, right? And as was everyone who knew me. And, the idealist viewpoint says we never get sick. The realist viewpoint says do everything in your power to be as strong as you can, because there are viruses, there are crazy things in our world that we cannot control. So I had like the organic vegan diet. I was training for a marathon. I was, mentally, emotionally balanced and happy. So my friends are looking at me going, what's going wrong? What's going on here? Like, I eat McDonald's and I drink and and I smoke and I do this, and it doesn't make sense. So yes, it was shock from a realistic standpoint. And I think the most important thing is that we don't overanalyze it. Why is a valuable question. And I know you speak to why in business a lot. It's really valuable there. But if we overdo the why when we're dealing with adversity, we're going to drive ourselves crazy. Why did this happen? Why me? Some people ask, why not me? It's what can I create from this? And what can I access from within myself to thrive beyond this? And kind of the next step after shock for me was accessing something that most would say was not so much a strength, but more a weakness, is that I was stubborn. And that's one thing. We have to access all parts of ourselves when we're dealing with something so traumatic. And I was stubbornly determined. And that's why I stayed in the financial industry, even though this voice was barking at me. But stubborn determination is what got me moving. And so my body, it literally felt like I had 200 pounds of weight on my shoulders and I could barely move. And I was in bed with 2 to 3 waking hours a day. But in those waking hours, I pulled myself out of bed and I went for a walk. I went for a run. It defied all logic. I shouldn't have been able to. It was like my upper body was asleep and I trained my legs to move. But I was so determined to do it, no matter how hard. And that being said, don't push yourself to the extent that you're doing harm to your body, but listen to your body, challenge, and then recover, and challenge and recover. And that's how we make progress, with those small steps. And whatever that case may be, whether it's, physical or emotional or mental, whatever the strain that we're dealing with or pain that we're dealing with is, to make those small steps, if that it's emotional pain, and then we're reincorporating back into the world and talking about it step by step, bit by bit, and not having to overwhelm. We're not expected to just jump back in. And the beauty of taking the time in that is that we really access what we're intended to learn from our experiences without overthinking it.
I love it. I like how you dealt with this, because it would have been so easy to just stay in bed and, because like you said, it was not an easy thing to do, to just push yourself to get out of bed and just move, even if it was just a little bit, but just do that one tiny little gradual thing that would just not keep you stuck in the wrong direction.
And I think that leads beautifully to the next point. Think outside the box. That's the entrepreneurial spirit, right? And within that is a principle I call defy rather than justify. My parents were so mad at me when I wanted to do this naturally. The doctors we just agreed to disagree, my medical doctors. My naturopath, my osteopath were just like, of course you can do it this way. We support you. But there are going to be people who think we're crazy. And that's okay, because we believe and we know. And we're tuning into this greater awareness of what is possible, of our potential. So when I say defy rather than justify, I'm not talking about, us all becoming rebels. But I was given the odds. I was told, on one occasion that I would only have 2 or 3 wake hours a day. Fast forward years later, I was actually in hospital and told I was going to die. I chose to defy those odds. And then what I mean, rather than justify, and justify would have said, well, I can't because I can't operate my business because I deal with this extreme fatigue that has no rhyme or reason. That's just tied to lupus. I can't get any stronger because I'm too tired to go for a walk or run. Defy says, I'm not supposed to be able to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway because I know this strength that I can access from deep within my core and who I am and who we all are. We all have it. It's universal. We all have it. We've just got to dig really deep sometimes, and we've got to defy what's realistic or logical sometimes and just access this strength.
And not give up.
Exactly. Like, believe in yourself and get a team of supporters who believe in you as well, right? When my medical doctor said, you're crazy, like, this is absurd, we're going to agree to disagree, but you've got a death wish doing this. I accessed the natural community, the holistic community, osteopaths and naturopaths, and said, wow, Joscelyn, this is amazing. I can see what you're doing. I have a German naturopathic doctor, and she's like, I can't even believe what you did. I can't believe what you did. I support you. And she's so smart. She's very much balanced between the allopathic and the holistic medicine. And she was such a great supporter and a source of information and knowledge. But get those people who support you through it, who believe in you as much as you do at some level. It's all those voices, and I know you speak to this as well, those voices that are saying you can't. And we may have those voices close to us. We may have family members, partners, friends who are saying, no, you can't do that. That's crazy. What are you thinking? What are you doing? No. Just have that entrepreneurial spirit.
Wow.
Believe in what's possible.
Such an inspiring story and demonstration of strength. And you're so right. I mean, if you can't surround yourself with people that support you, regardless of where you are in life, but it doesn't matter whether you're going through a challenge or not. I think it's a beautiful example, what you shared, to just have people around you that will support you. Mm-hmm. And they got your back, kind of thing. They know what you're aiming for, and they love you. They want the best for you.
Yeah. That might be one aspect where we have to kind of go against that really strong entrepreneurial mind, because I had that. Oh no, I can do it. I can do this alone. I can do this alone. And if illness taught me one thing above all else, it was to ask for help, right? So we have to remember that no matter how strong, we have to have that team of supporters, of helpers.
So before you were diagnosed and before you fell ill, did you find it hard to ask for help in other areas?
I was just someone who was capable of taking on a lot, and in very multifaceted areas of life, was just able to do a lot of things. So I never really felt the need, but I was brought up to never ask for help, to just not bother anybody. So I had to untrain that belief that it is empowering to ask for help.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of us women in particular like to think that we can do it all on our own. Yeah, the control freak syndrome, what I
Yeah.
what I call it. Wow. So going back to what you do, your ghostwriting services sounds like such a beautiful experience every time you work with one of your clients. Who are your clients typically? Are they entrepreneurs? Are they
They are entrepreneurs,
they are
yes.
entrepreneurs? So
Yeah.
there always a focus on the business side of your books, or is there wide open?
Interestingly, the group of, I guess, ideal clients, those who seem most attracted to my work and me to them, are those who are looking to reshape business for the better. They're looking to bridge the worlds of the social sciences with the more pragmatic. So bring in psychology or spiritually and find a way to spirituality, incorporate that into business. So at the end of the day, we're looking to make business more human. And what I've done in the last few months is really expand my business, because I dealt with some adversity last year, which kind of shook things up. And being a ghostwriter is wonderful work, though I personally have messages to share too. And I've always put service to others first. And there are a lot of messages that I want to share now. So really moving into more of an education, encouragement and empowerment platform, of helping people find their unique value and realize their potential through self-expression and through service.
So do you feel everyone who's in business should share their story?
It's interesting. I have an interesting perspective on story now, because sometimes we don't want our backstory to rob our glory. We don't want to live so much in the past. I think that what we've been through should just be the foundation, like a springboard for going forward. So I think it's more so about the messages. I always speak of a balance between story and strategy. And I have a coaching program called Voice of Experience. And that's what it's about. It's about reshaping the way we speak to ourselves and about ourselves. So do I believe that we and who we are has to be a part of our brand? Absolutely. But more so than story, I believe it's what we've extracted from our story. And that's the work I do, is helping you understand the unique value that you contribute. And that's your gifts, it's your perspective, and it's your knowledge and insight. And those all stem from our experiences.
And you're such the perfect person to do this, because you have the business background. You didn't just start doing this without any prior business experience. You already knew business, and now you're working with entrepreneurs, getting their book and their stories done, and you just basically marrying it all. Like, you've gone through adversity, you understand your clients who've gone through adversity. What a beautiful passion to have, to be able to put it all together with the experience you already had before.
Thank you for seeing that.
I think it's what gives the edge to what you do, because a lot of people, I'm sure there are a lot of great ghostwriters out there, and I don't know their story. I'm just going based on your story, your personal experience that you shared. And I think that's what makes you unique, because you've gone through deep personal challenges, in the health department. You have been in that business. You have been in business. You understand business, and you understand entrepreneurs. And you were writing before. So now it's just like a marriage of all that. And I think that's what gives you that extra level of expert.
Yeah, and I love working with new entrepreneurs as much. I say I write for everyone from new entrepreneurs to New York Times bestselling authors. Right? Working with new entrepreneurs is such a wonderful experience. So if anyone's listening or thinking like, I want to go into this, it is one of the biggest challenges to speak about ourselves, to put into words what we represent, what we stand for, our unique value proposition. How do we define our programs, our services, our offering in a way that stands out, that's creative, that attracts our audience, that speaks in their words. So yeah, it's such a wonderful experience to be a part of that with somebody.
So if you were to give a tip to someone who may have gone through some extreme challenges, and now they're out of that and they would like to share the story, but they're like, I don't know about this. And they're not feeling quite convinced about doing this. They're like on that fence where they like to share the story, but maybe they feel their story is not that interesting. What tip could you give them?
if I can just say, I can relate. When I wrote Unshakable to the Core, my first book, this was 10 years ago, I had no intention of publishing it. It was used for healing purposes. And I ended up meeting with David Holt, who was then the editor of Optimized Health magazine, a national health magazine across Canada. And he said, I'd like to read your story. He said, he read it and he said, Joscelyn, you need to publish this. So my advice is start sharing, not just your story, but what you've learned, more important than anything else. Because if we just share a story, we might inspire. But when we share the principles, and, if you need help, extracting those principles and those lessons and that strategy, people like me out there who are more than happy to help you do that. But when you share those, you empower. So start with the people you're comfortable with. Start with your friends, start with your family. If you look at like Simon Sinek, start with why. He started telling his friends and they went, this really works. And he went, it does? This is great. It was born out of pain. It was born out of suffering when he lost his luster for his work after 9/11. And I know that was a significant time for you too. So he just started telling his friends and it started to work for him. So just start telling the people you're comfortable with. Because if it's intended to resonate with people, you're going to know very quickly. People are going to go, wow, I didn't think of things that way. I didn't see that perspective. Oh, I never thought to use that strategy. It's so simple and it works. You'll know. So just be unafraid. Be fearless to just share that. I don't mean you have to post it all over the internet. Just share it in your comfort zone, right? And if you're comfortable with starting a blog and putting on social media, do that and tune in to kind of tap into resources that already exist and share it with them. If there's a Facebook group that's tied to an adversity that you've been through, like for instance, Option B that Adam Grant and Sheryl Sandberg wrote, they've got groups all over Facebook, people dealing with grief, with chronic illness. There's beautiful discussions going on. Send a reply to someone and say, hey, here's what worked for me. See if it resonates with them.
Great advice. Great advice. Now, Joscelyn, you have a gift for our listeners?
I do. So the principles of the entrepreneurial spirit and transforming adversity, I find these are universal principles. And as you pointed out, Francesca, what I've learned through adversity and through life is so adaptable to business and sharing our message. So for your users, your readers, I have a gift called Valuable You. It's 5 steps to increasing long-term visibility and viability in your business. And the principles are very similar to those I shared today about the entrepreneurial spirit. So that's available at joscelynduffy.com/gift. And that's JOSCELYNDUFFY.com/gift.
Beautiful. Thank you for the generous gift. I'm sure our listeners will be happy to download that and read it. This has been awesome. So that's a safe place where they can get in contact with you at your website?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Find out more about what I'm about. And, and I'm happy to share my message to work with anyone. This is absolutely a life purpose for me. I have dedicated my life to this. What we didn't get into today is that I faced a life-threatening blood clot a year and a half ago, and I was actually told I was going to die. And that's kind of spurred on the reshaping of my business to take it to a bigger level. I just have visions of helping as many people as possible and being in service and making that contribution. And my contribution is to help you make your contribution, to really fully express who you are and what your unique value is. We need that. The world needs that, that best part of you. And your adversities, your challenges have shown me what that is. It's when we're really tested that we see our strength. We see that our stubbornness is actually an incredible value, right? And it gets us, so we see what we're really made of. We see what we stand for. And that's what we need to share with the world.
Now, you mentioned you didn't really get into the blood clot. Do you want to share?
I think the message there, in the interim between lupus and the blood clot, I had actually honored an intuitive calling to sell everything I own and move across the country from Nova Scotia to Kelowna, British Columbia, to serve there. And in making that leap, I was able to realize my potential, working with some of the world's top motivational speakers, New York Times bestselling authors. And it was just the most beautiful connection. And some of them were made locally, which led to making connections online and thriving and happy. And I think the message there is, to really hone in on our value and our strengths and do everything we can to honor our bodies and our passion and our fulfillment, because life happens, even when we think we've got everything under control. And if we're entrepreneurs, we know the change really is the only constant. And when we have that strength, that awareness of ourselves, what we stand for, when we can access what we've done in the past. So when a doctor told me I was going to die, I was lying on the 6th floor of the hospital, and my mom was beside me at the time. And she left the room. I really didn't have much else to say to her. And she wasn't the most compassionate doctor, unfortunately. And she left the room, and I did what any death-defying, odd-defying, stubbornly determined person would do. I laughed. And I looked at my mom and I said, she doesn't know me, does she? And I was pretty weak. I was very weak. And the blood clot had gone undiagnosed. And they hadn't diagnosed it at the time. I actually had to make the decision to leave Kelowna, to sell what I accumulated there, and come back to Nova Scotia, where there were doctors I trusted. Within 10 minutes of meeting with a specialist in Nova Scotia, he said, it's a blood clot. And it was in my main abdominal vein. And I kept telling the doctors there's something wrong in my abdomen in Kelowna. So, be willing to adjust your plan. I mean, I had to go, I had skin and bone, 40 pounds or 50 pounds of fluid on my abdomen. I couldn't walk. I had lost my hair. And yet within a few months, I was walking, running, biking, thriving in my business, finished 2 books in the last year, created a whole methodology, taking everything to the next level. You can do it. And I knew I could do it, as hard as it was, as much as I didn't feel confident. I felt beat to a pulp. And yet I knew what I had done when I was 26 and I faced lupus.
That's very remarkable. Wow.
So access your past successes, your past strength. Be an observer of yourself. When you can do that, when you can witness who you are, you start to really appreciate your strength and what you stand for. We all have that opportunity to do so. You think of like getting to know your friends, right? If you meet a new friend, what do? You ask them questions, you observe, you assess a little. Do the same thing with yourself. Ask yourself questions, ask yourself tough questions, ask yourself intriguing questions, be curious. And then observe yourself in action with others. Observe yourself in these times of adversity. You will learn so much. And my hope for you is that as you love your friends, your partner, your spouse, you will come to love yourself that same way.
And in your story, you also demonstrated, talking to that one doctor, you had already made all the plans. You were leaving, selling, and all that stuff, and going back to Nova Scotia. That just shows the power of immediate decision and really going with your gut feeling versus doubting, because you could have thought that and then kind of, well, maybe I'll see what happens and how it goes. Instead, you're like, you knew that was not the place for you, and you made that decision. You didn't wait. You're like, this is time to go.
Absolutely. And my work now, as it is redefined, is about self-expression, both through voice and through choice. So you touch on that beautifully. And that moment between the stimulus and the response, I call it the pause. And that's an opportunity. And we need to realize that every moment is a choice. How we think, how we feel, what we do, it's all a choice. We have been given the freedom of choice in our developed world. Let's make the most of this and realize that you are an empowered person. This is your life. It's your life. Like, yes, we have people to consider, family and loved ones. We have to consider them in our decisions. At the end of the day, this is your life. And when you're facing a great adversity, you have to make those decisions that save your life. We're not good to anyone if we're not here. So we have to do what we need to do to be the best that we can be, to heal, to transcend, and to transform those experiences.
So much wisdom, Joscelyn. Not only an expert in book writing, but so much wisdom. This has been absolutely lovely. I've really enjoyed listening to your story. It's been really inspiring. Once again, like I said, if our listeners want to reach you, the best place is through your website, correct?
Yes, joscelynduffy.com. JOSCELYNDUFFY.
Well, Thank you so much. It's been absolutely amazing to know you and to know more about you. And I look forward to connecting again soon.
Yes, thank you so much for reaching out. Anything I can do for you and everyone you serve, I am here for you.
Oh, that's really sweet. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please pass it on, and it would mean so much to me if you would leave an honest review on iTunes. I'd really appreciate it. Till next time, embrace your magnificence.